More than 321,000, that is how many kids are estimated to have lost a parent to drug overdoses between 2011 and 2021. That's what new data is showing. And this morning, we're taking a deep dive into how we can best support kids impacted by a loved one's drug use. Recovery expert TJ Woodward is joining us in studio this morning with more. And TJ, good to have you here in person this morning.
Thank you so much, Bill. I am happy to be here with you in person. We've only done these interviews virtual, so I'm happy to be here with you.
No, it's great to have you, and such an important topic. Now, in your line of work, what are the biggest impacts that you see on kids who lose a parent from drug use?
Well, obviously, the loss of a parent is one of the most significant traumas anyone can experience. As little kids, our brains aren't even developed, and we have the importance of connecting with a caregiver. So whether that's through the addiction, there's a lack of connection, but certainly the loss of a parent is so significant and very traumatic for a young child.
I mean, it's hard to even imagine. How can we best support a child who lost a parent to drug use? And how do we even begin to explain that to a child? I guess it depends on the age, but...
Yeah, it does depend on the age, but I think the most important thing is to create a space to talk about it. I think a lot of times adults, we don't really know what to say to a child, so maybe we just don't say anything, but that child is then burying all of this trauma deep within them. So whatever we can do to allow them to talk about it, and the most important thing ultimately is allow them to feel whatever they're feeling.
So how do coping methods differ between younger children and older ones?
Well, a young child's brain isn't even developed until we're probably, well, actually 26 now, fully developed, we realize science is showing us.
Right.
But as a young child, very concrete thinking. So mommy or daddy is upset, I must be bad. The loss of a parent, even though it makes no logical sense as an adult, they might blame themselves or think they've done something wrong.
What is the impact on kids when they have a parent that is actively using and abusing drugs?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, an attachment to one caregiver is vitally important for a child's development, especially emotionally and spiritually. When an adult is in an active addiction, they're not fully present with their child, and as I said, the young child's brain isn't even developed enough. So if mom is absent, if dad is absent or angry or in an addiction, if there's violence in the home, they end up absorbing that and deciding some really huge things about themselves and the world.
Is there any research or any indication that kids who have parents that are using drugs in the home will grow up to be drug users themselves?
Yeah, it usually goes one direction or the other. Higher propensity for addiction for sure. There's a lot of schools of thought that say it's genetic. I actually think it's more environment. That's the age-old question, nature or nurture, but whatever it is, there's a higher probability. But the other way that many people go is what we would call codependency, even though I think that term's a little bit played out. It really is because they decide they're not lovable, they're not good enough, they end up searching outward for that. So a lot of them get into relationships with someone who is addicted or abusive.
Okay, so how can we tell if a child is struggling with this? If the parent is using, and I mean, are there telltale signs that we should be looking for in these kids?
Absolutely. If a child has sudden behavior changes, if a child is being isolated, let's say they're doing really well in school and suddenly they're not doing well, all of this warrants a conversation. And again, we really want to create a space to ask the child what's happening for them and then encourage them to feel, not attaching the feeling to a situation. Many of us are not allowed to feel when we're young, and then as adults, we end up pushing our feelings down, so allowing them to feel will really help in this situation.
Okay, so what do you think needs to change as a society? We're seeing a growing, the fentanyl epidemic has gone, completely crazy, and we have, painkillers being abused all over the world, have been now for, decades. So what needs to change as a society to, kind of curb this back?
Well, obviously, this would be a really long conversation, but in short, I think we need to move beyond just looking at the symptoms of addiction. Obviously, those are important. There's fentanyl coming in. There's a lot of drugs coming into our country. That is often what is focused on. I actually invite us to look at the deeper root causes. And to me, unresolved trauma, spiritual disconnection, and toxic shame. We're swimming in this in our culture now, and people are trying to find relief externally. And when we try to find relief externally, we can become addicted to whatever that is.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. Such an important conversation. Recovery and addiction specialist TJ Woodward, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Being with us in person. Good to have you. A pleasure.